Hello and welcome to Phloshop again. My name is Joseph. If you've been following this channel for a while, I have mostly been concentrating on beauty retouch and frequency separation and stuff like that. I have just a couple of videos, and so if you want to um, know how I do my frequency separation and how I retouch most of my images, you can just go back to my previous videos and then you'd see how I do them. Now, this particular tutorial, I, I'm just excited about how it's gonna end up, and I'm also really excited about it because I mean this is a very gorgeous model, and it was the first time shooting her, and all the images that we had were really, really, really amazing. Now with this image, um, in the background there were some trees and then there was some grass in the ground, but I shot this in aperture priority, and so it I think I didn't properly expose, and so I ended up blowing up the background, and I like the pose and everything else about it, but I really didn't like the way the background was overexposed and there wasn't enough bokeh in the background. And so I retouched a couple of images for her, and I thought I wasn't going to do anything with this until I started going through some of my archives, some of my saved images that I had, and I realized I had a bokeh folder in there. I had two different kinds of blur backgrounds, and so I thought, why don't I put them into this image to make this image the way I imagined it, and probably take it even a step further. So I'm just going to create a new layer on top of this just to show you what exactly we're going to be doing. And this isn't really the raw file. When I hide the FS group, you'd notice a slight change in the skin, and that's because I have already done my frequency separation and edited the skin just a little bit. All right, so what I want to do right now is just replace this entire background, which looks like it's further back in the shot, made up of trees and some greens and stuff. And so I'm gonna put in some greens in here. Don't mind my G. And down here, we're gonna find a way of filling in, maybe just about to this point, with some browns, to I know it's grass that was down here in the original shot, but in the files that I found, it was a little bit brown, creamy, and I think it's going to complement the green a little bit more. And then we're also going to be looking at filling in the gaps in the hair as well. And we're going to look at how we can make the subject also pop from the background a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and I'm going to show you the two bokehlicious backgrounds I found in my archives. I know I took them from online, but I can't really remember where I got them from, and so I cannot properly reference those who made them. But you can also have your own gallery of stuff like these. You can go around, take your own bokeh shots, but this is just to carry out an idea and a trick that I found. I stumbled upon actually because I thought I wasn't going to use this image at all until when I was going through my gallery and I saw these and I decided to try it out. So, all right, so we have green background and brown ground. All right, so first of all, I'm gonna look at how I can fix this green background into the back where I marked out initially. And so I'm gonna make it visible, and I'm gonna move it just into place, and I'm just gonna change the blend mode to darken. So I'm just gonna move it just to about the point where the wheel starts. And I don't really want this dark patch to be in the shot as well, and so I'm gonna hit Command or Control T to bring up my transform, and I'm just gonna scale it out just like that, and I'm gonna hit a check mark to check it. I'm just gonna create a layer mask, and I'm gonna hit B for my brush tool with a fairly soft brush, and I'm gonna paint with black, at a high flow. And what that is gonna do is just gonna hide all the pixels that are showing above the subject. And I'm just painting, just increase my flow a little bit more. I'm just gonna paint it out of the hair areas and a little bit on the face. I'm looking for the where the original ended, and it was just about here. So I'm gonna hit X to start painting with white, and it's gonna paint back this bokeh that I inserted into the shot. Okay, and looking at the brightness of the background in relation to this newly inserted bokeh, it looks darker. And so to make it blend even better, I can lighten this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just hit my adjustment button and come down to levels. I'm going to clip this adjustment down to the green background. And so all the levels adjustments I'm going to be making are going to be constrained and limited just to the green background. So just gonna brighten it up a little bit, just like that. Moving the darks just a little bit as well. Moving the whites and gradually just lightening up the background just a little bit, like so. And again, I decided to change the blending mode to multiply this time. So I'm gonna be a little bit more careful on my layer mask and paint with black to hide all the greens that are showing through the hair. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit just so I can pay attention to these areas. The lower flow, just the blending in. And it still looks darker as compared to the original background. So I'm gonna go back to my levels adjustment again. And I'm just gonna brighten it up some more. And that just fills it in just a little bit. All right, so we can always come back and then modify again if it doesn't look too good. So I'm gonna group these two and rename it greens. Then I'm gonna make the brown visible and just gonna bring down the opacity just a little bit. Hit Command or Control T to bring up my transform tools. And I'm gonna transform the size and just align it in such a way that I can get the grounds to be in the shot just as I want them to. And I'm gonna increase the opacity again. Let's see what darken is gonna do. Darkening kind of worked. Painting with black with a higher flow this time. And I'm just gonna paint it out of the subject. Just like so. Again, I'm gonna create a levels adjustment on top of the background as well, the brown background, and I'm gonna clip it also. Then I'm gonna brighten it up just a little bit as well, so it also blends in. And let's see, multiply. Multiply kind of works really well. So I'm gonna keep it at multiply, and I'm just gonna paint in and just do a quick before and after to see how far I've been able to bring the image. And it's looking colorful, and it's looking better than the original. It was looking pale and too bright, but bringing this in all of a sudden just adds some extra color to the image. Okay, so I'm just gonna create a blank layer on top of everything else. I'm gonna hit S for the clone stamp tool. Make sure I set the current and below. I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit, and I'm gonna sample just close by, and then paint to fill in the hair. Have a look at what I did. So this is the before, and that's the after. And I think I like the way the hair is looking fuller. Just get rid of this. That's a bit distracting right now. Okay, and overall I think it looks good. So now let's just look at making the model pop a little bit more. I'm just going to create a curves adjustment on top of everything, and I'm going to pull the midtones down. This is going to darken everything in the image. Then I'm going to hit Command or Control I, and this is going to invert the layer mask, and so it's going to hide all the darkening that we did. And so when you look at the curves, just when you can see the midtones have been dragged down, and so it is dark. And by hitting B for the brush tool and painting with white, I'm just gonna bring my flow down a little bit and just add some darkening with a large brush. Just gonna darken the edges of the image just a little bit and head inside towards the subject just a little bit. So just darkening the edges, some kind of fake vignetting. Do a quick before and after. And I'm gonna create another curves adjustment, and I'm gonna brighten it. And I'm gonna hit Command or Control I again to invert the layer mask and painting with white. I'm just gonna reveal the lightening over the model, and I'm just gonna paint the brightening away from the hair because I don't want it to look too bright. I'm gonna group these two and do a quick before and after, and you can tell it's added a little bit of focus to the model. It's opened up the face a little bit more, and I think I'm gonna go back to that one, and I'm gonna lower the flow a little bit and just paint away the brightness away from the arms just a little bit, so that the focus goes straight to the face of the model. Paint it away from the dress just a little bit as well. Maybe paint it out of the hair a little bit as well. And yeah, standing out just a little bit. I'm also going to create brightness contrast adjustment. I'm going to increase my brightness just by 3, and increase the contrast to just about 6, and makes the colors pop a little bit more, in my opinion anyway. All right, now after all this, I need to make sure all the tones in the image are gelling, blending, and are working well together. So I'm gonna just go straight to my color balance adjustment, and in the shadows I'm just gonna add some blues and a little bit of cyan as well, maybe about 2. And I'm gonna go into the highlights, and this is where you need to be creative and artistic about it. It's what you want. It's the way you want it. I mean, this is where you need to exhibit your creativity and make sure that the colors you put in there do complement image. So I'm just going to add some yellows into the highlights and add some reds to give it a little bit of an orangey tone in the highlights, and some blues in the shadows. And it made me lose quite some details in the hair, so I'm just gonna paint it out of the hair just a tad. So I'm just gonna paint with black on my layer mask with the flow even lower. Just gonna paint it out of the hair so you can get just a little bit more information in the hair areas, like so. Um, in the midtones, just let me add some magenta. Just about. Whoa, that's the Wacom losing its mind. Just add -3. Sometimes it's easier to key it in of magenta. Make it -2. Just a little bit to even out all of the tones that we've added into the image. So doing a little before and after, you can see the toning that we've done. I'm just going to pull down the opacity of all this toning just to about 15%. And I'm just going to add a solid color, something bright. Let me start it with this. If I don't like it, I can always change it. Set the blending mode to soft light. Bring the opacity, start from about 20% and start toning it down just to see if it looks kind of cool. And I like the toning it's added to the skin, and so it means I need to get somewhere orangey browny kind of, just so it can complement the skin a little bit more. Okay, so personally I think I like Personally, I think I like it, but one more step. I just want to limit this orangey tone into the highlights, and so I'm just gonna use my blend if options, double clicking the layer. It brings up this layer style dialog box, and I can drag this out, and so the orange stays in the highlights of the image. So just about the point where it begins to get noticeable that there's a split, I'm just gonna split this open by hitting the Alt key and then dragging it all the way out, and a little bit to the left as well. Just do a little before and after, and it's in there, just not as noticeable as it was in the beginning. So let me just do a quick before and after, before and after. And I think I really like how far I've been able to bring the image. I'm just going to group everything we've done so far and name this retouch, and I can easily do it before and after. Zoom in and before and after. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this episode. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, if you think there's a better way you could have done this, you can let me know in the comments down below. And also, if you want people, your friends, anyone to know about Phloshop, do well to share and recommend and help Phloshop grow. Thank you very much, and see you next week.